Welcome back, guys. Today we are going to go back to our series on hashtag why I am not a Calvinist, and we're going to look at a passage that at first glance, it looks like Jesus is saying something very Calvinistic, but I think if we look at it a little bit deeper, we're going to find out that that's not at all what he meant. And here right now is the passage that we're going to be talking about, just the verse, and we'll go back and look at it deeply. John 6:37. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me, I will by no means cast out. So at first it looks like, wow, Jesus is saying that the Father's going to give me some people, and the ones he didn't give to me, then they're not going to come to me. Well, I think what we need to do is back up and look at what's going on here and understand that that's not really what Jesus meant. I think what he meant here is he's making a promise to these people. If you come to me, I am not going to turn you away. Well, let me explain to you why I think that's what he's saying. So we're going to look at our Bible here, first of all. The history, the context is that people are following Jesus everywhere he goes. Not because they're saying, wow, this is the Messiah and I want to learn what I can learn from him, but because he's healing. But more importantly, even I think to them often, he's giving them food and they just wanted food. They wanted more food. And Jesus is like, guys, I have something so much better to give you than just food. But he kind of plays along with them a little bit. And he uses a food illustration about himself. Look in verse 35 there. And Jesus said to them, I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall never hunger, and he who believes in me shall never thirst. So if what you want is food, if I give you lunch, you're going to be hungry by supper time. But you need to come to me because I give you something better than food. It was all about food, but they did not believe in him. Verse 36. But I said to you, you have seen me and yet do not believe. You have seen me. You have seen the miracles that I can do. You have seen all these things that I can do and that I am doing, and you don't believe in me. They wouldn't believe. They saw Jesus. They didn't just read about him. They actually saw him, and they still didn't believe. The miracles that he did were supposed to prove who he was, but they really did not care about who he was. All they cared about was, are you going to give me another meal? Are you going to heal my son or my daughter? It seems like that's what the groups cared about. So Jesus says, look, you have seen me, but you haven't believed. And then he gets to verse 37, our key verse. All that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me, I will by no means cast out. So at first glance, it's like, oh, okay, well, he's giving some people and the rest can't come to him. But I don't think that's all what he's saying. And let me explain to you why I think so. By showing you the verse here on our graphics. Again, chapter 6, verse 37, all that the Father gives me will come to me, and the one who comes to me, I will by no means cast out. What I want to do is break this verse down into two phrases that I think will help explain the way that I see Jesus, what he actually meant here in this passage. So let's break it down to this first part first. All that the Father gives me will come to me. The word all there is actually a neuter singular word. It's singular. It is a collective word. It is a group. Jesus says the group that the Father gives to me will come to me. He's not talking about individuals yet. He'll talk about individuals next part of the verse, but he says all, this collective group, singular, this group that the Father gives to me will come to me. And that word come there actually has the idea of arriving at something or someone. He says, all that the Father gives me, this group will arrive at me. Contrast it to the next word, comes in the last part of the verse. And that's more of a generic word just showing up. Okay. So he's saying all that the Father gives me, the group that the Father gives me will arrive at me. And the one who shows up, I'm not going to cast him out. Okay. So I think what he's saying here is that the Father is going to give me this group. This group who comes to me are the ones that the Father gives to me. And then he says, these individuals I'm not going to cast out. Let me explain it maybe a little bit better this way. A couple of years ago, our family went on a vacation to New York City. It was really cool. One of the things that we did, obviously, beside the Statue of Liberty, is we went to Ellis Island. I recommend you going to Ellis Island if you're ever in New York City. And we went to Ellis Island and we took the tour, or we toured around. You give you little radios, you can listen to the tour, And we went to what is called the Stairs of Separation. The stairs of separation were the place that would divide up the people when they would come to the United States. About 12 million people came through Ellis Island trying to come into the United States from 1892 to 1954. And they would go through customs, as it were, and they would have all their documents looked at, health checks and things like that. And they could be turned back for different reasons. One reason they could be turned back was sickness or crime, or if they didn't have any money. And so they had to stand in long lines and wait. And finally, they made it to the stairs of separation, and it had 3 sections. One section you would be able to go down if you were going to New York City, one if you were going to New Jersey, and the third one if you were being detained or deported. You were sick, you didn't have the money, or you had to go to the hospital or something like that. And nobody wanted to go down that set of the stairs. They wanted to go down the other stairs so they could show up. So now let's just imagine these people. They're boarding a ship in another country. And this is a picture of the RMS Olympic, which is actually a sister ship to the Titanic. It brought many immigrants to America. Let's just say that there's people that are getting ready to get on this ship. And they're scared. Am I going to make it, first of all, to the United States? I'm not going to be taken down by a sub is going to shoot us down or something. And will I make it to the other side safely? And when I get to the other side, will they accept me? Will I be healthy enough? Will I have enough money? Whatever it is. Are they going to accept me and not push me back? And you can imagine all of these immigrants as they were coming, they were scared about this. Are we going to be able to make it in? So we have this group of people that shows up on the dock, and they're getting ready to board the ship. And let's just say they're in Poland. And suddenly the United States ambassador to Poland shows up on the dock, and he makes a promise here. And he says, look, the president of the United States has authorized me to tell you that every person in this group, this whole group, if you get on the ship, you will not only be guaranteed safe passage across the water because we're going to send our warships to protect you, but also you will be able to enter the United States. You will not be turned back. No questions, anything. If you get on the ship, you will be allowed to come into the United States. I think in a sense, that's what Jesus is saying here. He's saying, look, all this group that comes, the whole group will arrive to me. This is security. If you come to me, you will arrive. It's not like God's going to pick and choose, say, oh, no, I don't want you and I don't want you. Some people can't come. All the people who get on that boat will be allowed in. So that's the group. The whole group can get in. But then he turns to the individuals in the group. And the last part of the verse where he says, the one who comes to me, I will by no means cast out. Those are the individuals. Remember, the first part is the group that the Father gives me. The whole group on the ship will make it to me. And the individuals that come to me, I'm not going to pick through and throw some out and not allow some come, just let my favorites in. The whole group will arrive to me, and there is not one person who arrives at me that I'm going to reject to come in. I think that's the lesson that Jesus is teaching here. Very simply this: Jesus will not reject anyone who comes to him. So our question that we have now is, how does anyone get into that group, right? We want to be in that group that's on the dock, that gets in the boat and gets to the other side. We want to be there. Well, how do we get there? It just so happens that Jesus tells us back in our passage here in verse 40, it says, and this is the will of him who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. Remember, he's already said, hey, you've seen me and you haven't believed. But now he says, everyone who sees the Son and believes in him may have everlasting life. Now, obviously, we can't see him with our own eyes, but we can see him with the eyes of our heart. We can see him as we read. We can, read the Bible. We can read the Gospels. But all these people were seeing Jesus. They saw what he did and they didn't believe. Jesus says, you have to see, but it's not enough to see. You also have to believe. Don't just follow me around because of the food. Follow me and believe in who I am. Believe. It's the same as trust. You have to simply trust. There's another great promise here, and it actually shows up in verse 39 there. Jesus says, this is the will of the Father who sent me, that of all he has given me, that's the group, of all, that's the collective group, of all that have made it onto that ship, of all that he has given me, I should lose nothing, but should raise it up at the last day. So again, we have the group of all he's given me, I should lose nothing. That's the individual. No one is going to fall off the boat. No one's going to be rejected. And he accepts everyone who comes to him in faith. That is what we call eternal security. It's not something these people do to keep them safe to go on the other side. It's a simple faith of getting on that ship. Okay, I trust what the president has said through the ambassador. I will get on that ship and I will go to the other side. And it is not them, anything that they have done that gets them to the other side safely. They just simply trust, so they get on the boat, and the president and the ambassador, they take care of everyone else. In context of salvation, Jesus says, anyone who trusts in me will arrive at me, and I will not remove any of them. That is the lesson that Jesus is teaching here. It's not about, oh, Jesus is going to choose some people and not choose other people, reject some. No, it's that everyone who decides, I will have faith in Jesus, I will believe, and they get on that boat, every single one of those people will stay in that group, and they will make it safe to the other side, and they can be saved. So I hope this helps you as you understand John chapter 36. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.